Hey everybody, I've popped along to show you how to work the PB stitch from your Bejewelled shawl. It has this beautiful lace edge with this little picot point at the end of the border, and it sticks out and has a little bead that's popped on the end, and I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way to work that so that you can have this lovely effect with the beads as well on your Bejewelled shawl. So I'll go over to the little piece that I was starting on, my swatch. What I've done is I've worked a portion of the lace. I've worked the right side row that leads up to the PK stitch, and I've turned my work to the wrong side because you actually work that little PB stitch with the bead being added on the wrong side. So the way you do it is this. I have my beads ready. I have my needle ready. I'm going to show you how to add the bead with a needle. I know you can do it with crochet hooks, but everybody has a needle, and I want to make this as easy as possible for people. So I'm going to show you how to do it with a needle so you can do it too. And then we're going to start that stitch. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to work into the last stitch on our needle, and we're going to work a knitted cast on worked purlwise, and we're going to add 2 stitches like that. So you'll remember a knitted cast on works into the stitch and not between the stitches. So what I do is I work into the first stitch purlwise and I purl, but instead of pulling that stitch off, I just drag it out, twist slightly and put it back on the stitch, and I do it again for my second knitted cast on worked purlwise. I go in as if to purl. I do in fact purl, but instead of pulling that last stitch off, I pull the thread out, put my yarn back onto my needle by putting my left needle into the front of that stitch, and I slide it back on. And then I've done my 2 knitted cast ons worked purlwise, and then I have 2 extra stitches added to my needle. The next move I need to do is I need to actually purl the first stitch that's sitting there. So I'll purl that stitch, and in that case I will take it right off the needle. I've purled it and I've taken it off, and then I'm going to add it back on again. I just slide it back on because that's where I need it to be to add my bead. So the next step is to add the bead, and I'm going to do that with a needle, and I pick up my bead with my needle. I then go from the bottom to the top with my needle through my first stitch, and I just hold my bead with my left hand, my thumb and forefinger, under the needle. I just hold it there and pull my thread through, but I don't pull it right through. I lift my needle up and over, and I put my needle back through that bead, back through and down, and then I just move my fingers slightly. So I hold the bead with my left hand and I pull the thread with my right hand until the bead is just sitting on the thread here. The needle's in my right hand, and then I pull that last stitch off. Nothing's going to go anywhere, it's all held together with the thread. Pull the last stitch off, and then I literally slide the bead onto that stitch, just from the cotton over to the yarn, and I put the stitch back onto my needle and I pull that thread out, and I've added the bead. So the next step I need to do, I've already purled that stitch, haven't I? And then I added the bead, so I'm going to pop it over to my right needle. That one is complete. What I need to do next is purl the next stitch, and then I'm going to move my yarn to the back because I find that easier, and I'm going to lift my first stitch up and over that next stitch on my right needle and drop it, and then I'm going to bring my yarn to the front, and I'm going to purl again because we have to do this twice. Bring my yarn to the back, and then I lift that stitch, it's actually the second stitch, but I worked it first on my right needle, up and over, and drop it over that stitch, and then I've cast off 2, and that's it. I'm done. I've worked my piqué bind off and I've added the bead to that as well. And then I'll just bring my yarn to the front and I'll carry on, and what I do next in that row is I purl one. So I'll do that and I'll show you. And there we have the little piqué edge on our stitch, and we've added the little bead. So that's how you do it. Now when you're working, what you might find is that your beads want to flick under a little bit as you're working, and you're thinking, oh, is this ever going to be seen? Well, it will be seen, don't worry, because then later when you come to block your shawl and you're spreading everything out into a nice horseshoe and get your blocking pins, you can grab those piqué edges and pull them down and push them in like so. And so I'll just get a few pins to show you what I mean. And then with that, what happens is, as it's drying, everything gets to dry in a point, and all of those beads will end up hanging off the end, so they'll be really visible when you're wearing your shawl and it's hanging around your neck. So there we go. That's how you work the PB stitch. You work a piqué edge, you add the little bead, and voila, you have some lovely bejeweled edges on your bejeweled shawl. Have fun, everybody.